How do you know if you are blessed or if you're cursed? Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 4, a Torah portion, Tavo. And let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, the blessings and the cursings. Most folks would read these and claim, oh, I'm in the front half of the chapter. I'm blessed. Oh, I'm really blessed. Well, this Torah portion here in this chapter is not about the individual, but rather about nations. Let's read verse 1. And it shall be, if you diligently obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to guard to do all of his commands, which I command you today, that Yahweh your Elohim shall set you high above all nations of the earth. Nobody wants to be in the back half of the chapter. Nobody wants to be cursed. But again, we're not talking about the individual. We're talking about a nation. Is the land of your exile blessed or cursed? Notice in the first part of this verse, it says, it shall be if you diligently obey his voice. It's not if you attempt to obey his voice, occasionally obey his voice, wish you could obey his voice, you want to, you try to, you know you should obey, but those who diligently give themselves to the pursuit of the Torah and seek to keep it in full measure. Now, there are those that argue that can't be done. We'll talk more about that here in just a moment. Now, again, this is covenant blessings. This is for a nation, a people who are in covenant with the Most High through the work of Yeshua, and they have been redeemed, they are being restored, and they're being elevated back to the covenant. These are those that would seek to walk in obedience and find the blessings following after them, pursuing them, overtaking them. Those who have been in covenant with him and have turned their back on that covenant, walked away from it, and sought their own way, preferring to be accepted by the Goyim that they live among, then they will find that the curses will overcome them and pursue them. As powerful, as incredible, as awesome as the blessings are, in same measure, so are the curses. Do you want to be incredibly blessed or incredibly cursed? A phrase that is found in this verse also is Shemoah Shema. Translated for us means listening, you are listening. Basically what that is suggesting, at least in my opinion, is that you're hearing, the words are going in and they're getting caught. You're paying attention to what's being said. Unlike sometimes when people listen to me teach, they tune out. They hear me speaking, but they're not catching the words. They're just kind of floating in the room. They hear my voice, but their mind and their heart is somewhere else. Happens all the time to a lot of different folks. But when it comes to hearing the Torah, Moshe on many occasions would call the entire nation to stand and to listen to the words. And they stood and they listened and they heard. Listening, they listened. It's very important. Now, there is a literary technique that is used in this chapter, a chiastic structure. Basically, what that means for those that may be unfamiliar is a statement is made, and then it's repeated subsequently a little later on. The next thing that is stated is also just previous to the last statement. And again, they move toward one another, and they're stating, and then there is a central theme at the very center. When it comes to the blessings, what we find first and last is economic success. Secondly, we find fertility of the soil. Then we find fertility of humans and their animals. Then we find abundant food. In the center, in verses 6 and 7, we read about military success. That is, that when the blessings and the favor of Yah are upon a nation, that their military is able to well guard them and keep them. They are protected. When we read through the curses, we find the same structure is used, but now we're talking about first and last spoken agricultural disaster. That is, drought has hardened the ground and there's no produce. This is followed by defeat to becoming a byword. That is, a nation has suffered under the hands of their adversaries, and now they are no longer remembered as strong and resilient, but now they are worthy of just shaking their head and say they lost their power. The third thing mentioned is inflammation. This is followed by madness and blindness. Then we come to a state of where the nation is constantly robbed and abused. The central theme that is found in verses 30 through 33, oppression. Instead of being protected, a nation is now oppressed. Now, what about America? Are we protected? Certainly we have a powerful military, perhaps still reputed to be the most powerful on the face of the earth. But the military serves us outside our borders. What about inside our borders? Right now, our police and sheriff's departments, our state police, our governmental agencies, they're being called upon to be defunded, to be dissolved. They are harassed. They are ridiculed. There are a very small, small group of people within their ranks that have perhaps done things that shouldn't have been done. But by and large, these people are there to serve and to protect. That's their motto. That's what they seek to do. That being said, with their absence, we're going to be a very oppressed people. It'll then be left up to the mobs running through our streets and neighborhoods to determine what is and what is not acceptable. My friend, we're about to see the central theme of the curses of Deuteronomy, Devarim chapter 28 come to pass. How can this happen? I thought we had the Mayflower Compact. I thought that we were a nation that was based on Judeo-Christian concepts. While these things may be true historically, we have turned our hearts away from whatever understanding we had concerning the law of Elohim, his Torah, and we have sought our own way. These things have not come down to us by force from our government, but they have been cried out from our pulpits. We've heard such doctrinal statements offered to us as the Torah is bondage. The Torah was only for the Jews. The Jews thought they could be saved by observing the Torah, but it was given to them to show that they would only fail at keeping it. The Torah was given to the Jews to curse them. The Torah has been abolished. The Torah will one day be annulled. We only need to obey the spirit of the Torah. Or perhaps the letter of the Torah will one day be done away with. Then we've heard, well, the Torah only brought death to those who obeyed it. Some say, well, one day we will be free from the Torah or dead to the Torah or delivered from the Torah as a standard of right behavior. Commonly we've heard obeying the Torah is legalism. It's works, and Yah hates it. Then the more popular scripture or doctrinal thought is Messiah has fulfilled the Torah, therefore it's no longer necessary to obey it. He kept it one time for everybody. So basically Messiah came, lived among us, obeyed the Torah perfectly, died on the cross, shed his blood over top of the Torah to abolish it, so now we can eat what we want, worship when we want. We can celebrate whatever we want. We can basically live any way that we want. We wonder why we're oppressed. Let's turn our hearts again to his Torah and diligently seek to obey him. Because I'm like you. I want to live in a land that is blessed. More tomorrow. We'll see you then. Shalom.